I'm going to show you how to implement an insertion sort in VB.NET. And I want to keep things really simple, so I've already started a Windows Forms application and I've got nothing but a form here which I'm going to drop a button onto, which will call my insertion sort routine. I'm going to write this as a procedure. Sub insertion sort, of course. And I want to keep my code as close as possible to the pseudocode which I talked you through in a previous video. So I'm going to hard code my data in the routine, for now at least. This is a nice little feature of VB. I can declare an array and at the same time I can load it up with data. So I've got a 0-based array with 5 elements numbered from 0. My insertion sort needs 3 variables. I need one called pointer, which I'm going to use to scan the array from left to right. I need another variable called current, which I'm going to use to hold the current item, the one which I'm trying to find a place for in the sorted section of the list. And I need another variable which I'm going to call position to track from right to left through the sorted section of the list while I'm looking for the right place for the current item. Now for the outside loop of my insertion sort. This is going to control the pointer. It's going to move the pointer from the second item in the array to the end of the array. You'll remember from the pseudocode that the pointer starts at the second item in the array. It separates the sorted section on the left from the unsorted section on the right. So technically speaking, when the program begins, 7 is already sorted. And then what we're trying to do is find the right place for each of these items, one after another. So the first thing we're going to do inside the loop then is get the first item in the unsorted section, in this case item 1, which is the number 8, and load it into current. The next thing we do is we assign the value of pointer to position. And now for the inner loop, which is going to do most of the work. My exit condition looks like this. So what are we saying? As long as position is bigger than 0, then we haven't scanned all of the sorted section. We haven't gone beyond the leftmost item. And as long as the item to the left of the item given by position is bigger than current, in other words, we haven't yet found the correct place for current, then the loop can continue. Do look at the pseudocode video again if you're a little unsure about what this loop is doing. Anyway, if the loop can continue, what we need to do now is move the item in the array given by position -1, one place to the right. So we say myArrayPosition equals myArrayPosition -1. And once we've done this little shuffle, we then need to decrement position. So this loop continues until the right place to insert the current item is found. Then the loop can exit and we can place the current item. And there it is. And all we need to do now is write a few lines of code to output the sorted array. There, notice how we're scanning from 0 this time because we want to output the entire array. We've also popped a space between each item in the output string, so let's just output that. And there it is, an insertion sort. Let's put a call in and we'll give it a test. And sadly, the insertion sort has crashed. Let's see if we can figure out why. An index out of range exception usually means we're referring to an element of an array that doesn't exist. Well, this is where we're referring to an element of an array, myArrayPosition -1. If we take a look at the value of position, it's reached 0. So position -1 is -1. We're trying to refer to element number -1 of the array. Well, the array is zero based. It doesn't have an element -1, and this is why the program's crashing. Now you might be thinking, the first test in this exit condition has been met, so it should have dropped out of the loop anyway. But this is a quirk of VB.NET. VB.NET insists on evaluating every test in this expression, even though it doesn't need to. The algorithm and the pseudocode were fine, but a feature of VB.NET is tripping it up. Now, one way to get around this is to test the value of position before we try and continue the loop. So I could do this. I'm forcing an exit from the loop if position has fallen to 0. That will stop the problem happening. Let's just check. Yeah, my insertion sort is working fine now, but it doesn't look like the pseudocode anymore. It's getting a bit more complicated. I've got another idea. Take a look at this operator. Instead of saying and, I'm going to say and also. Now it's almost identical to my original pseudocode. Let's see if it works. Indeed it does. So what does and also do? And also produces an effect known as short circuiting. We know that if the first test in this exit condition is true, position is bigger than 0, then this loop can continue. But if position falls to 0, it should be enough to exit the loop. With and also, VB.NET will evaluate the first test in the expression, and if the outcome is enough to exit the loop, it won't evaluate any other tests in the expression. We get the behaviour we're looking for. This can be really useful actually if you have a very complex expression with lots of tests separated by multiple AND operators. Then you don't necessarily want every test in that expression to be evaluated. If the first one is enough, why bother looking at the rest? If you arrange your tests in the right order and use and also instead of and, you can make your code a little bit more efficient. By the way, I'm just going to rephrase this expression. So instead of saying do while, I'm going to say do until. Do until position equals 0, or my array position -1 is less than current. That's pretty much the same exit condition. If I've scanned the sorted part of the array as far left as I can go, or I've found the right place for the current item, then I can exit this loop. But I'll have the same problem with or, because every part of this expression, including this part, will be evaluated, and that might crash the program. But I can do this instead. Or else. Let's see if it works. Yeah, a perfectly good insertion sort. To be honest, I prefer to say do while, so I'm just going to change it back quickly. So there's my insertion sort. Now I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to do a version of my insertion sort which will work with any array. I don't really want to hard code the data into the insertion sort routine. So let's just copy this code and make a new one, which I'm going to call insertion sort 2. And in this version, I'm not going to hard code the data. Let's get this out of here. And we'll pop that up there in the caller. I'm also going to take this little output routine and I'm going to put that in the caller as well. So my insertion sort is now nothing but an insertion sort, but I'm going to give it a parameter, which will be an array. So there it is, an insertion sort routine, and when I call it, I pass it the array of data. Let's just modify the caller so we can pass it the array. And we're calling insertion sort 2. Okay, let's see if that still works. Yep, that's fine. And the beauty of passing in the data as a parameter is I can sort any array I like. And that's still working nicely. So there it is, a VB.NET implementation of the insertion sort algorithm.